Welcome to African Gardening. Today I'm going to be talking about all the things you need to consider, the things you need to do before you plant any tree or seedling in a pot. You know, for a whole lot of people, maybe they don't have the space or their floor are already made of concrete, so they cannot plant their trees or seedlings in the ground. So planting in pots or containers becomes the one and only option. Personally, I prefer planting in plastic containers. Why? Because they are lighter and it's easier to make holes to make holes under the containers. So I'm going to talk about all the points you need to know. Point number one, ensure that your pot has a hole inside. So these are different kinds of pots. You see, we made holes inside. These are pots with ready-made holes. These are pots with the holes we made. So ensure as you're buying your pot, make sure it either has a ready-made hole or you have a machine that will enable you to drill holes under the pots. The second point which you have to take note of is that for most of the trees, they love containers that are wider than tall. What do I mean? Look at this kind of container. This is not a good container. Why? The diameter on the top, it's shorter than the height. This kind of pots are better because when you look at it, the diameter is about or even longer, wider than the height of the pot. And I'm going to tell you the reason why. Look at this. This is a very good kind of pot. Because the reason why you need that is for narrow pots like this, it reduces the amount of oxygen that's working inside because the pot is just too narrow. It's just too narrow. So you see, the wider pots, they allow more oxygen to go around the pots. Point number 3 is use a sand that drains well. If you use a sand that does not drain well, what you're going to have at the bottom of your pot, there's going to be lots of water that will destroy the roots of the plant, and the plant will die. Point number 4, do not, and I repeat, do not put or apply chemical fertilizers either in the form of a liquid or in the form of pellets into the soil that's in a pot or in a container. And the reason why you shouldn't do this is very simple. A lot of the chemical fertilizers in form of liquids and pellets, they contain or they break down to salts. And when they break down to salts, this salt will start accumulating gradually and it has no place to go. If it was in the ground, the salt will be displaced by the groundwater flowing all over the place. But here, the soil is confined here, and it's only the water that goes all the way down. So because of that, you're going to have lots of salt deposit. This salt deposit, they will damage your roots. They will damage the roots of the plant, and ultimately, the plant will die. Ultimately, the plant will die. So that's point number 4. For point number 5, you must ensure that your potted plant, you must ensure that the container or the pot, it's not placed on the ground. So I'm going to show you an example here. So this is a pomegranate tree. This tree is dead. Do you know why it died? I'm going to tell you just now. What killed this plant was that this plant was kept just on the ground, just like this. So I'm going to show you. It was kept just like this. For your information, this tree and this tree, they are of the same age. But you can see this is doing fine, even though it's in a small pot. But what do you notice? This was kept just on the bare floor, and this, we put a stone, we put something to raise it up about 3 inches. Why did we do that? We have a dog in the compound, and this dog, it loves weed. It loves urinating all over the place. So what happens here? The dog urinated on the side of this container, and the urine got in contact with the bottom of the pot and leached into it. In fact, I believe some of the roots too came out and they touched the urine and the plant died. So this one, it has, as you will see, it has this here. So this is the kind of stone I use. You can use any kind of stone. So just put it here. So it doesn't matter whatever kind of pot you have, because some pots are already raised up, but it still doesn't matter. It's better you put something underneath. So apart from the urine of a dog, you can have people put in soap water, put in things that will probably kill the plant. So you don't want that to happen. A whole lot of my other plants, they are all planted, we kept them on top of stones. So that way you are sure that nothing is going to come to kill the plant. So that's very, very important. Most especially for those of us that have pets at home. So you must ensure that your plant that's in a container is kept on top of a stone or something that just to raise the height up. That's point number 5. Point number 6, you must ensure that your container or pot, they are not placed on tiles. So again, it goes back to point number 5. You have to raise it up, regardless of where you put it. Whether you put it on the ground, whether you put it on tiles, whether you put it on bricks. But more so, when you put a potted plant on tiles, the plant will suffer iron deficiency. Why? A whole lot of the tiles, they are made of silica. Silica induces iron deficiency. So what happens is this: as water keeps touching the tile, the silica on the tile keeps, little by little, it gets dissolved. And if the water is enough, it will leach into the pot or container. Why? Because you have kept it directly, keeping it directly like this. So assuming this is the tile, you're putting this on top of a tile directly. That's not good. You must ensure that whenever you have a container, regardless, whether it's a tile, whether it's on the ground, just raise it up. As a matter of fact, if you put a potted plant on the ground, what's going to happen to you? The root will probably go into the ground, and within months, the root has already gone so deep, you will not be able to remove that plant. So it's always the best for containers. Raise them up. You can use any kind of stuff. I prefer bricks, because if you use wood, the wood, when it gets in touch with water that's draining from the bottom of the pot and from even the rain, the wood will get destroyed eventually. So these 6 points, they're very, very, very important if you want to plant your trees or your flowers, anything you want to plant in a container. These 6 points will help you to have healthy trees and healthy plants. So let me recap. Point number 1, ensure that you have holes under your container. Point number 2, ensure that the container is wider than it's taller. So that means it's wide at the top and it's not narrow, just like I showed you this. This is not a good container, because this is the distance from the top to the bottom is more than the distance, the diameter of a pot. So point number 3, I talked about ensuring that you use a sand that drains well. Use a sand that drains well. If you use a sand that does not drain well, what you're going to have at the bottom of your pot, there's going to be lots of water that will destroy the roots of the plant, and the plant will die. Point number 4, do not, I repeat, do not apply chemical fertilizers, either in the form of pellets or in liquid form. If you want to apply fertilizer to a potted plant, you have 2 options. Use an organic fertilizer like chicken manure, horse manure, any kind of manure that's rich in micro and macronutrients. Or if you want to use the chemical fertilizer, use a liquid form which you spray on the leaves. So it's called foliar application. That's what they call it when you spray fertilizers on the leaves. And why do you spray fertilizers on the leaves? You spray fertilizers on the leaves because the nutrients goes in through the stomata on the top of the leaf and at the bottom of the leaf. So that the nutrients goes into the plant, at an extremely fast rate. So point number 5, ensure that you do not keep your potted plant or your container with a tree or a plant just on the ground like that. Why? You can have people pouring soaps, you can have dogs urinating by the side of the pot, and the soaps and the urine, what they will do? They will leach into the container from the bottom and kill your plant. Then point number 6, which is the final point. Do not place your potted plant on tiles. So all the tiles, they are made of silica, except for granite and marble. But then the best thing is do not put on any tile. If you're going to put directly on a tile, ensure you have a brick between the bottom of the container and the top of the tile. And the reason why I said you should not put on the tile directly is simply because tiles are made of silica. Silica induces iron deficiency. Once silica leaches into the soil, your plant starts yellowing and then you have iron deficiency. That's what silica does, because the tiles contain silica, and when water comes in contact with the tiles, there are little amounts of silica that gets dissolved into the water, and it will leach into the container or the pot if it is kept directly on top of the tiles. So with these 6 points of mine, then if you follow through, apply these 6 points, you won't have any problem with your potted plants. Look at that. Look at that. So I'm going to show you now. You can see a whole lot of my potted plants. They're really doing well. They're doing well. They're doing well. You can see that. You can see that. So this is a pomegranate. It's doing very well. All right. So let's come here. Look at that. So that's the soursop. We've already harvested some fruits. So you can see there's something at the bottom here. It's doing well. This is another pomegranate. So you have a lemon tree here. See, it's doing well. You can see it's right there. You have something at the bottom. You have a fig tree. So the fig tree too is doing well. You have something at the bottom of it.